I see we've got Robert here, who was featured on the latest episode of Shoestring. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Robert. Thanks for joining. We've got one phone call listener, one person who's dialed in. Awesome. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. Again, I'm sorry for folks who have joined our webinars before, and we always take some time to promote the podcast. So sorry if you've heard this spiel before. But really, this podcast drives a lot of the content that we make. On each episode of the podcast, we reach out to a Simple Texting customer. We work with them one-on-one to learn about their business, give them ideas for their text marketing, and just their business in general. So go back to look up Shoestring on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, and you'll get a lot of inspiration, even from the other businesses that we've worked with, even if they're from different industries. And if you like the show, be sure to subscribe and give it a rating. It helps us keep the show going. So with that, I'm going to jump into our topic for today, which is lessons from our 2024 SMS Marketing Report. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Alfredo Salkeld. I'm the brand director at Cinch, and Cinch is the company that is behind Simple Texting. So Cinch is used by thousands of companies across the globe to send text messages, emails, voice calls, and 8 out of the 10 largest tech companies use Cinch. Simple Texting is our product to help small businesses take advantage of this channel. So real quick, I'd love if everybody could just type in the chat what your business does. It's going to help me kind of guide the rest of the webinar. So Lowell says new home sales, junk removal. Whoa, lots of different businesses, music lessons, auto repair, brewery and tap room, marketing agency, another brewery, union organizing, side hustle selling shrimp on the weekends. Brian, or Biram, sorry, we got a chat for Shoestring.
Hi, Brian. See Brian on the call.
At Livingston Farmers Market. Okay, great. Well, we give examples throughout the presentation, and I try to select from a range of different industries and use cases. So hopefully there's something here for everybody. A little bit about how we ran this survey. So we actually ran 2. The first one went to consumers, so the people you're actually trying to reach, and there was 1,000 people included in that survey. Then we ran a second one specifically just to small business owners and marketers, and that one included 500 participants. And this was from a range of different company sizes in industries. Though we focused on the US, Simple Texting specifically only works in the US and Canada. So it's worth noting if you have a business that operates in other countries, those messaging preferences will be different. So this is really just kind of North America. So one of the first things that we asked in our survey is, have you subscribed to receive text from a business in the past year? And we asked this last year as well, and 71% of people had said they had subscribed to a text from a business, whereas this year it was 79%. So we're seeing this trend where more and more people are comfortable signing up from text from a business. And why is this important? A lot of times businesses come to us, it's their first time using text marketing, and they say, I already have a list of phone numbers that I've just been collecting over the lifespan of my business in my CRM, and I'm ready to send out a text with a promotion to all of those folks. And they're often disappointed to learn that you can't do that, that you actually need to have gotten their express written consent to send them a promotional message, and they find out all those phone numbers they don't have proper opt-in for. There's 2 ways of looking at this. On the one hand, it's really disappointing, right, that you can't send out all of those messages. But one of the reasons that texting is actually so effective is because it's protected, because there's less spam than other channels. So the opportunity is there to get started, and consumers are more open than ever to opting into text from businesses. So now is the time to build your list. So if you're getting started from scratch, you can move pretty quickly with this. So I want to cover really simple ways of growing your list. The first is if your website gets any amount of traffic, you might as well have a form on your website. You can use simple texting to create a form where you collect opt-in from customers, and you can add in additional fields to that form and pass that information to simple texting. If you run an e-commerce store, you should collect phone numbers at checkout. This is a common one where people are already collecting phone numbers, but they're not collecting opt-in. So the way to do this is to add an additional checkbox where somebody has to check the box in order to confirm their opt-in to your text messages. You can also get creative. So there's a customer of ours, Postino Wine Cafe. They're a restaurant, and they had this battle of the bruschetta. So they have different flavors of bruschetta, right? The type of the toast. And when you would text in battle, each week, I think it was, they would send you a photo and they would give you two flavors. So in this case, spicy sprout or Mexican street corn, and people would text in their vote for which bruschetta flavor they like more. And at the end, the winner of this kind of March Madness style bracket would end up with a permanent spot on the menu. So there's really simple, low-hanging fruit ways to grow your list to collect that opt-in, like a form on your website, but you can also get really creative with it. We ask people if they want the ability to text back a business. In other words, if they receive a text from a business, do they want to be able to have two-way communication? And 60% of people said yes, and that's up from last year. Now, what's the lesson here? Oftentimes when we work one-on-one with a small business and we take a look at their account together, they're surprised to go in to log into their account, click on their inbox, and see that they have messages just waiting there from customers, that people have messaged them questions or replied even just in gratitude to one of their campaigns with a promotion. So the lesson here is check your inbox, because there's a good chance that people are already texting you, and so you're missing this connection with customers. Some of the pushback that we hear is that this is just it's another thing to manage, right? It's a lot easier to just blast one-way messages, but to manage two-way communication, you have to stay on top of it. So I want to highlight some tools that makes that slightly easier. If you go into your profile settings, you can set up an email to be sent to you each time you get an incoming message, or you can send up a text to be sent to you each time you get an incoming message. I want to highlight that if you get a text, you will be charged credits for those texts. So that's why some people opt for email. Or you can set up push notifications on your desktop. If you're constantly on your phone, you can download our app and get push notifications there, but it's really worth staying on top of your inbox. Though, of course, not everybody has the time to be replying to messages right away. A really underutilized feature I find is our away messages feature. So you can set up a message that sends, either 24/7 if you're not monitoring your inbox. That's something that you can set up where you say, hey, you've reached our inbox, but we don't actively monitor it. Make sure to give us a call or email if you have any questions. Or if you do want to monitor your inbox, but you just want to make sure you get back to people outside of business hours, you can set up your away message to only send during specific times. So here's an example from my personal life. I reached out to an electrician, and this is why texting is so convenient, right? Because I'm managing this sort of thing after work when a lot of people then are no longer answering the phone. So I was just able to shoot them a text asking to get a time to have somebody come out to give me a quote. And right away, I got this message where it says, thanks for your message. Looks like you've reached us during our off hours. Someone will respond to your message during regular business hours, Dynamic Electric. And then sure enough, the next day I get a text and I'm able to just over text schedule a time for an electrician to come out. So setting up that away message can really reduce a lot of anxiety that your customers may feel if they're reaching out to you and then either not hearing back at all or hearing back, the next day. The next lesson here is that you should use texting to create opportunities to have two-way conversations. So even large brands are doing this. Target had this campaign going where you could text in beauty chat to the Target short code, and a beauty consultant would get back to you and help recommend different products. So there's creative ways of highlighting your brand and connecting with people over texting. Um, you don't have to have an expert replying to every single message to be able to create these little moments where people can get back to you. This is a text that one of our team members, Nathan, received from his chiropractor, where it says, "Hey, Nathan, it's been a while. We wanted to check in. How are you doing? Feel free to reply and we'll figure out your next appointment." This works because a chiropractor is someone that you kind of have more of a one-on-one personal relationship with. So just reaching out and saying, "How are you doing?" doesn't feel unusual. This doesn't always work for every industry, though. So here's an example of a text I got. "Hey, Alfredo, it's Katie. I just wanted to send over a quick message. Is there anything you need from us at the moment?" First of all, you can see that there was an error with this campaign where it says it's Katie at, and then just an exclamation mark. So clearly there was some sort of custom field there that didn't get filled in. The other thing, I've never met Katie before, and immediately later that month, I get a text saying that she's wants referrals. So remember, it's a human on the other side of this campaign, right? So send out a text. Before you send out your text, think about, would I reply to something like this, right? If I have no idea who Katie is, I'm probably not going to reply to a text out of the blue that just says, "Do you need anything from us at the moment?" It's like, no, I have no idea who you are. Of course I don't need anything. And then right afterwards, she says, "Also, if you know anyone who needs a quote, just let us know," right? Like clearly there was another ask there. Robert, this one's for you. So Robert, who's on who's a guest on the webinar right now, he runs a business called Gramercy Atelier, where they're a bespoke dress company. And this is one of the text messages that we suggested he send out to new leads, where it starts with a little bit of information about how the process for getting a bespoke dress works. And then this was something that Robert came up with, which is ending the text with, "Do you have a date for the wedding?" When you're trying to get customers to reply to your text and engage in a two-way conversation, you want to minimize the amount of thinking that they have to do. So something like, "Do you need anything from us at the moment?" or "How are you doing?" I have to actively think about a reply, whereas "Do you have a date for the wedding?" is a simple yes or no. And if they have the date, they can share that information and you've started that thread. Here's another example of just making it really low effort for people to engage with you and reply. This is from a robotic litter box, and it says, "What's your biggest litter box frustration? Reply with one of the numbers below." And so the person could just reply with a number, and then they get back an automated text with a link to information about how this product helps with one of those three particular pain points. This is a good solution for you if you aren't going to actively manage your inbox, but you still want to create opportunities for people to text with you back and forth. So I want to just hop into the platform and show another feature that some folks don't know we have. So keywords are words or phrases that people can text to your number to opt in for campaigns in the future. So you'd give your keyword, like let's say we were that litter box company and the keyword was litter. We could add them to our all customers list. And then here is where you would set something like that up, where you'd set something like that up, where it says, you know, "Thank you for joining our list. Reply 1 if your biggest frustration is smell." I'm not going to type all this out. "Reply 2 if your biggest frustration is the mess." And then down here under triggers, like so few people use this and it's really powerful. You can add in your trigger name. It could be one, it could be a word, and then you type in the autoresponder that you want somebody to get for that particular trigger. And you can add any number of these. You can even use triggers within triggers. So this is a way of being able to create a little bit more of a two-way conversational experience without having to directly be at your inbox ready to reply. Okay, let's keep going. Took a look at how to create triggers and sub keywords. So we've talked so far about list growth, so how to get opt-ins. We've talked about list engagement, so creating those moments of two-way conversation. Let's talk about list churn, or how to prevent it. We asked people, what's the biggest reason that you would opt out of receiving text messages from a business? And the top response was too frequent messages. The next highest reason was spammy content. And then we have irrelevant content. So if you can find that sweet spot for how often your customers want to hear from you and what type of content they want to get, and absolutely make sure that you're getting proper opt-in, so people are expecting to receive messages from you, you're going to see really, really low unsubscribe rates. We also ask this is something our customers ask all the time, is like, well, how often should I text? And so here's a rule of thumb based on our survey. 48% of people say that they want to receive text from businesses once every other week. So basically texting twice a month is a rule of thumb if you're just getting started. The 36% of people say they want to receive a text once per week. So there's no hard and fast rule, but these are some kind of benchmarks to guide you. So don't keep your text relevant and don't send too frequently. I want to give another example of kind of what not to do. This is a text I got. Do you need to steam clean your sofas, love seats, chairs, rugs, or carpet? Special, $1.99. Text yes for a call back, stop to opt out. Number one, the business name is not here. I have no idea who's texting me. I can assume, of course, right, that it's some sort of Stanley Steamer type of service, but the business name is not there. And I absolutely have never opted in from this person. Now, I decided to bite just out of curiosity, being in the texting industry. I replied back saying, could you share more about pricing? Of course, I heard nothing back, right? They're probably not monitoring their inbox. So missing two of those lessons. So don't be that business. Make sure that you get proper opt-in. Here's an example of keeping your text relevant. This is a YouTube channel called Yes Theory. I'm subscribed to their text messages. And look at how long this is. Like, they're really going for a full conversation here where they say, hey, how's it going? We know we don't text that often, but like we want to start texting you more. I'm curious, what kind of things are you interested in? And they gave a few options. Or feel free to just respond with emojis if you'd be interested in one of these. So if you're not sure what type of text messages your audience is interested in, give them a few options, ask them, and let them reply back. That's going to help your future text messages, and it's going to show your customers that you're really interested in their feedback and that you're using texting as a two-way channel where they can engage with you. I want to call out another kind of best practice that this message is using. Notice at the top of the post, at the top of this thread, I've saved them in my contacts. You can actually send a contact card through SimpleTexting so that in the future, when somebody gets a text from you, it appears with your logo and brand name at the top. Again, I'm just going to pop out and show you how to do that because it's really easy and not enough people do it. If you go to Settings, Numbers, you can add a contact card to your number. Right here, you'll hit Edit. And so you can, this is just a made-up business name for this test account, but you can add your logo, you can add your company name, your email, and all these additional fields, and that will get saved right on your customer's phone. When you send that contact card and they click it, it makes it really easy for them to save your number. I want to also give some examples of how to determine how frequently to send text messages. I gave that rule of thumb of once every, once every other week. but it really varies on what you're selling. So this is a local company here in Durham, North Carolina called Red Start Foods. And they have some fun with these reminder messages. A reminder text, how thrilling, order by midnight to get on board for next week's delivery. So this is a food delivery company where each week they drop a menu and you can every Sunday get food delivered to your house. And so for them, it makes sense to send something out weekly, right? Even if I'm not ordering, I appreciate getting this reminder text so that if I do want to order, I get something in by the right date. Here's an example of daily texts working. You know those Snapple facts that you get under the iced tea on the bottle cap? Snapple ran this for a while where you could text in and get daily Snapple facts, right? So this is breaking all of the rules, sending a text every single day, but it's just aligning the amount you text with what your customer actually wants and what's relevant to them. Let's look at how quickly people check their text. So we asked, on average, how quickly do you check your text notifications? Nearly 30% of people read their text within 60 seconds of having received it. 80% of people check it within 5 minutes. So what's the lesson here? We're going to get there. One more stat. How many times per day do you check your texts? And 91% of people are saying they check their texts every single day. So the lesson is what you send is more important than when you send it. As long as you're sending during regular business hours and you're not breaking compliance rules and waking somebody up in the middle of the night with a text message, don't fret too much over when you send something because people check their texts really frequently. Unlike some other channels, it's not going to be just sitting rotting in an inbox. They're checking their texts multiple times per day, so they're going to see your message. Now, of course, you should use common sense, right? Like if you're a restaurant and you want to have people come in for lunch, you should probably be sending that out around 11 or 12 during lunchtime. But if your service isn't kind of time dependent that way, just send it out. Just send it out when you have it ready. The content matters a lot more. So I want to show some kind of best practices for that. Sometimes people don't click the message right away and it just shows up with this preview in their inbox. So notice here that Zero Shoes front-loaded the information. They say, even within that preview, you see the most crucial information that there's a sale, it's ending tonight, and you can possibly save 20%. Here's another example from 1-800-CONTACTS, making sure that their text lines up to something that's relevant to me. So clearly they have information about the last time that I ordered text messages. And so they're timing that text to go out right when I'm running out, or sorry, text messages, contact lenses. They're timing that text to go out right as I'm running out of contact lenses. So it's really relevant. They're not just sending a text out of nowhere saying, hey, we're 1-800-CONTACTS, don't forget, we're still here. They're aligning it with something that's happening in my life to make it as relevant as possible. Let's talk about MMS. So most brands are just using SMS messages, so just plain text, but you can actually include multimedia in your messages. I find this is really useful if you have a product that has a visual component to it. So for example, we touched on Gramercy Atelier, the dress business, probably useful to send out images of those dresses so that people can really get a feel for what it looks like. Same thing with like restaurants, send out photos of your food so that people say, that looks really good. I want to come in for that. Jewelry is another good example. Images really just help your text take up more space in that person's field of view too. What's your average SMS marketing click-through rate is another question that we asked. And the average was between 21 to 35% for 40% of small businesses and marketers, which is huge. Like the average Facebook ad click-through rate is like 1.5%. I think with email, it's maybe 4%, something like that. So it's a huge click-through rate. So the lesson here is use texting as an opportunity to drive people deeper into your brand. There was a marketing agency that was working with Amazon who used SimpleTexting. And there's a show called The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and they were recreating a deli from the show. So they had a landing page where people could register to receive a text message when tickets were on sale to be able to come eat at this deli. And so what they did was they didn't just send out a link to purchase those tickets. They also sent out a link to watch the trailer for the second season of this show. So again, driving people to learn more about that product. And then they got really creative. Within simple texting, you can track when somebody clicks a link, and then you can create a segment of customers who clicked that link or who didn't click that link. So this is how it went. People would get a text saying, hey, watch season 2 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. They clicked it. And then they would get, as soon as the trailer was over, they got a text that said, what did you think of the trailer? And so it almost felt like, wow, how did they know that I just watched it? It's just a little bit of very simple magic happening in simple texting. They created a segment of people who clicked on the link, and then they just created an autoresponder that was timed to go out 2 minutes later, and the trailer was 2 minutes long. So it felt like it went out right after they finished the trailer. So lots of creative things you can do with sending out links. Here's just going back to, well, this is actually a different product, Pretty Litter. So they use that kind of sub keywords feature, text colors for our handy color chart or support for customer service. Again, they had those triggers or those sub keywords set up. And then depending on what the person replied, they send out a link to give them information about that particular thing. Okay, so that kind of covers our 6 top lessons from our SMS marketing report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Danny, do we have anything in the chat?
So far, we had a couple of questions, but they were one was around, can you use emojis as keywords? And I found out from our customer success team that you cannot. It has to be at least 3 characters. Looks like we have a couple now. Will we get a copy of slides? Yeah, so we'll be sending those out, a recording out at the end.
And then it looks like Robert may have a question. Let me see, Robert, maybe I can.
And Robert had a question earlier in the chat about, I would be keen to know if you or your customers use photos in a text. I know it ups the cost on the delivery side, wondering if it increases the client cost as well, though most plans seem to be virtually unlimited these days, and how that photo comes across. Is it too small, thumbnail size, to have an impact or diminish the brand?
So it's a good question. It does cost 3 credits to send out an MMS image. So what I would recommend is if you can pair that image with a link, that's a good way of measuring it, right? Send a just standard SMS campaign with a link, look at the click-through rate, then test out an MMS campaign with an image, look at the click-through rate, and that will give you a sense of, is the extra cost worth it? I can definitely follow up with just some best practices as far as the image size. But for the most part, that image should just show up without like a tiny thumbnail.
Another question, it looks like a couple of people have asked, can you include a link in the away message if you set one up? And if so, does that cost extra?
Including a link in the away message doesn't cost extra, no. And Robert, I see what you're saying about within simple texting, when you send an image, it like looks really, really tiny from the inbox for whatever reason, but it doesn't actually show up that way on the customer's phone. It's just a weird little quirk about simple texting. I see another question. Yeah, do links cost more? No, links don't cost more.
And Melissa asked, if you set up an away message, does that use your credits? And yes, if it's under 161 characters, I linked in the chat if you didn't see it. And there's an article that explains, the breakdown of the cost. But if it's under 161 characters, it's 1 credit, and then 2 if it's above that. And is there a way to view which contacts clicked a link? I believe so. Isn't that right, Alfredo?
Yep, you can look at which contacts clicked a link. We can send out information on that.
Mhm. And Robert is asking about link shortening. He said the link shortener is a little ugly. Is there a guide on creating nice looking URLs?
We should talk about that offline, Robert. I'm not sure what you mean by the link shortener being ugly. It sounds like maybe I have seen brands, we do work with some companies who want a custom domain. So rather than coming from like txt.so / and then a random combination of numbers and letters, it comes from their own shortened URL. I know there's a cost associated with that, but it sounds like what you're referring to is like you wish it was like a gramercyatelier.com / or like txt.so.com/dress. That's not something we can set up. It would really just need to be on your side, creating a shorter URL on your domain, but that can be difficult if like your whole domain is long. And no, you can't link, you can't create anchor text.
Lots of good questions. I hope we don't miss any. Deborah asks, can I send a message to all my contacts without it being in a group format? And yes, you can send campaigns. So there's a campaign tab in your dashboard where you can send out a message to everyone, but it will appear in their inbox as a one-on-one message. So they can still text you back, but they can't see who else you've messaged.
I'm seeing quite a few messages around pricing, which I know pricing can be complicated with SMS. Like how can you explain how much a credit is? The best thing to do is just to go to our pricing page, and there's like almost a handy calculator there that you can use to estimate if you have X number of contacts and you're going to send out Y number of messages, roughly how much will that cost and what plan size should you be on. So I would recommend going to our pricing page, and you'll also see like the per credit cost there. But one short SMS message, I think it's under 160 characters, it costs one credit, and one MMS message, so that's including pictures, cost 3 credits. And I also saw a question around carrier fees. So we can also send info about that. That's a tricky one to manage, right? Because you can't really control what the carriers charge or what carriers your customers have. But we do have information on like the averages that we see on typically what carriers do people have and what kind of carrier fees can you expect for each one. On my contact card, it already has the name of the point of contact for the institution. Can I change it to the institution name? If I'm understanding your question correctly, it sounds like you want to change the name on your contact card. And yes, within the settings, if you go to numbers, settings, numbers, and then you can hit edit, you can change the name so it's coming from whatever you'd like.
There was another question about from another Danny. Hi, Danny. Where do you add your logo for the contact card? I'm gonna drop a link here to some more information about the contact card. It includes screenshots, and I think, yeah, here we go.
I'm gonna show you how to see who clicked on a link. It's a little tricky. It's kind of have to do a workaround. So you'll send out a campaign. Let me see if I have just a really easy list that's just me on there. Okay, I don't think I do. But basically, you'll go to contacts, segments, click new segment, add criteria. Let's see. And then click link, clicked on campaign. You'll select the campaign that included the link and then hit save segment. Clicked on campaign. And then this will populate with down here, you're going to see all of the people who clicked on that campaign. If you want to see the people who didn't click, you'll hit not clicked, update segment, and that will give you all of the people who didn't click. And then you can follow up with them. So you can create an autoresponder that goes out to that segment. You'll see here, clicked on campaign. And so you can send it out, you know, let's say you send out a campaign, some people didn't click on it. You could create a segment for people who didn't click, have it go out a day after. Or you can also send a campaign rather than an automated message to that particular segment. So I think we've answered, I'm looking through, I think we've answered most folks.
One says, can you do this more often? And yes, we do this once a month. So if you have topics you'd like to suggest, definitely send them our way. Maybe we'll do one in the future, but next month will be about nurturing contacts through texting, following up with leads and things like that through texting.
Can you show us, I'm going to answer these last two questions. Can you show us how to add the logo, please? Yes, you'll go to set, well, if you want to be able to add that logo for the first time, this is going to be the easy way to do it. When you're creating a campaign, there's this little button here. You'll switch to MMS because in order to include the contact card, it's a file, so you need to be able to attach that file. You'll hit add contact card, and this is going to prompt you to create this contact card. So it will link you right to the area in the app where you fill out that information with your business name, and you'll be able to add the logo, and you just drag and drop it in. So again, you'll go to campaigns, create a new one, make it an MMS message, and click add contact card. That will get you to where you need to add the logo. Deborah, I see you have a specific question about how MMS messages are showing up for your contacts. So I can have our support team reach out to you individually after this. And if this was useful, again, please go listen to Shoestring. Danny and I spend a lot of time on it. I think if you got value out of this webinar, you will most definitely get value out of listening to Shoestring. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, it's on Google Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll be able to find it. And at the very end of each episode, we include a phone number. And that phone number goes right to our Simple Texting account. So you can text us in if you want to be on the show. And if it's a good fit, we'll reach out and we'll have a one-on-one session with you. All right. Thank you so much. There's one question from Jeff. Jeff, I'm going to send you a link to how to find who clicked on your messages, so that way you can easily reference it in the future. Thanks so much, everybody. Talk soon.
Bye.